Back with another edition of Byron Scott's Fast Break. I'm Kid J, Coach Byron Scott.
Yo.
And we really gonna put on your, get into the mind of Mr. Byron Scott right now because you guys know we bleed purple and gold.
Absolutely.
Byron's been with the organization since the 80s. I've been with the organization since the late 80s all the way to 2012. And what they pulled off a couple days ago is mind-boggling.
It really is. And it shocked me because I heard this, Sunday night at a party.
Yeah.
And Keyshawn Johnson, my man Keyshawn, came up to me. He's like, did you see this trade? And when he showed it to me, I said, no, that ain't a trade. They just talking about it.
Yeah.
He came back about 30 minutes later and said, no, that's a trade. They made the trade. And so my initial reaction was shock, as well as probably everybody in LA and everybody in Dallas and everybody in the NBA world, that you were able to pull off a trade of this magnitude with two superstars.
Unheard of.
Unheard of. You just don't see that being done in basketball. So to get Luka Doncic here to LA, Anthony Davis and Max Christie go to Dallas, my initial reaction, Kid J, was this was not a good move for the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm going to tell you why. Because for me, as a coach, you are in the business to win now.
Today.
And I mean today. You know what I'm saying? Especially here in Los Angeles. So Luka Doncic coming over to the Lakers, all of a sudden we get smaller. Do we get more dynamic on the offensive end? Probably so. But what we lose with AD being gone is that rim protector, that athletic big man who can also get you 30 and 15, 20 rebounds. But he also intimidates guys when they come to that hole. So from a defensive standpoint, we lost a lot because we all know Luka is not a defensive guy. He is an offensive machine. There's no doubt about that. If I am the Dallas Mavericks, and I know Jason Kidd pretty well.
Yeah.
Coach Jason, played against Jason back in the day. Didn't look real happy at the press conference. But if I'm thinking about right now, at the press conference. But again, you got to understand his point of view. He's losing a star that they would probably have for the next 10 years, that he could build around. And obviously they get to the finals last year, so I'm sure they were a little disappointed. But if you think about it the next day and you think about what Anthony Davis brings to the table with this young Dallas team that they have, now the ball is going to be primarily in Kyrie Irving's hand, who is dynamic at the point guard position. You got some other bigs that are extremely lively and athletic in Dallas, but it puts AD at his natural position. He can play that power forward position. So for Dallas, I think right now, that jumped Dallas to me to probably the second best team in the Western Conference. And I think it's going to be tough for the Lakers. Hopefully Luka gets back and he's healthy for them to be in the playoffs, with this drastic change that they've made.
He's missed 22 games this year.
Yeah.
He's got a nagging calf injury and a couple of other bumps and bruises. What can he bring to the Lakers today that will actually help them? That's my first point. And I think this trade short-term benefits the Mavs. Long-term, though, if we're looking long-term, how does it benefit the Lakers?
Well, I don't think they're done with moves.
Okay.
Number one, I think they have to make a couple of more moves to make this really work. Again, you got a generational player in Luka who is dynamic with the basketball, but he's basketball dominant. We already got one. That's LeBron James.
Yeah.
So for those two to be in there at the same time is going to be a little different.
Who defers?
I think if I'm Luka, I got to defer to him. That's the king. You know what I'm saying? But Luka,
Father Time?
Yeah, but Luka being that strong bull, that Brahma bull, it would be probably best if LeBron says, this is your team now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just for the purposes of this all working. And like you said, in the short term, the Dallas Mavericks, to me, got the best of this deal.
Yeah.
And they also got a young kid in Max Christie at 21, 22 years old who has proven this year especially that he can play extremely well on both ends of the floor. Doesn't make mistakes, guards the hell out of people, can make open threes, can get to the basket, pretty athletic, and he really loves to play defense. So in the short term, this is helping the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
In the long term, and when we talk about long term, we're talking 5 to 10 years from now, right? Because
we're talking. Let's put a 5-year window on it.
Put a 5-year
five-year window. LeBron's out of the league.
Correct.
AD probably will be out of the league as well.
Could be, because he'll be 36 at the time, 37 maybe at the time.
Luka
He'll be in his
is
prime.
29, 30 years old.
Yeah, he'll be in his prime. So again, in the long term, this deal can work out for both teams, because in the short term, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, who had just got to the finals last year, and you just got one of the best two-way players in the NBA in Anthony Davis, who's going to help you on both ends of the floor, they got a chance to get back to the NBA Finals and have a better chance of winning it this year with that group that they have right now. In the long term, obviously with the Lakers, like you said, LeBron's going to be gone, so Luka would be the face of this franchise. And if you get the right pieces around them, even though how tough the West is, it could definitely look good for the Lakers too in that 5-year term.
Hold on for a second, Byron.
Okay.
We got to talk about our partners.
Yes, sir.
PrizePicks.com, and make sure you use that keyword, B. Scott, to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineup. And it's very important that you play that $5 in lineups, because the 50 won't pop up in the right-hand corner until you play that $5 in lineup.
You heard it again, guys. Go to PrizePick.com and use code BSCOTT, BSCOTT, to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineup. And like Kid J said, that's the key. You got to pay that $5 in lineup first.
This trade has such massive magnitude that it actually affects other teams.
Without a doubt.
Which team does it hurt the most besides the Lakers and Mavs, and which team does it help the most?
It helps the Clippers.
Okay.
It helps the Rockets. You know, all those teams that are below OKC, because I think, like I said, Dallas done jumped from 7th, 8th to probably the second best team. You know, so all those teams that are above Dallas right now, you know, they're looking at it like, ooh, we're going to either stay where we are or move up a little bit, because the Lakers are going to drop, in my opinion. You know, so I think pretty much all the teams from 3 to 6 in the Western Conference, it helps. All the teams lower than that, it probably hurts.
Well, Dallas is actually sitting down around that 9 or
9,
10 spot right now, the playing
right
spot.
now. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you who I think this helps the most out of everybody in this league is OKC. And I'll tell you why. Dallas has OKC's number, and they've had their number for the last few years, and they've already beat them 3 times this year. Now you take Luka off that team. Now how does OKC match up versus a Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis team?
So you think OKC benefits from this more than...
I think this benefits, and I actually think it might put them over the top to be Western Conference Finals champions.
That's a good point. I don't agree with it, but that's a good point. I think every team in the Western Conference, this hurts because, like I said, you get AD with Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, and now they can depend on that defensive end to win games. Whereas with Luka there, they had to try to hide him as much as possible. You know, see if they could put him on guards who are not offensive minded, or people who are not offensive minded. But you see what Boston did last year. Whoever he guarded,
that was the biggest knock is they didn't have defense versus Boston.
They didn't have defense versus
the Celtics.
Versus Boston. But not only Boston, but every time that they had a pick and roll, they created that switch so that he had to guard Jaylen Brown. He had to guard Jason Tatum. And that's a mismatch. And they were able to just get by him and get to the basket. This Dallas team, I think, is more equipped to play Boston in a much. And Dallas won 2 games, right? But I think this Dallas team is much more equipped to play them in a 7-game series and beat them.
We know Rob Pelinka, Lakers GM. Nico Harrison is the Dallas Mavs GM.
Yep.
Everything I see, everybody's trying to hang Nico. Just
right.
The whole world is trying to. How the hell did you do this? Why would you do this?
Right.
Like, how does a trade like this, with such magnitude, happen? I mean, I can't even think. I mean, I know the Pau Gasol, Kwame Brown trade that was massive back in the day, but since then, nothing like this has ever happened.
That trade, when we talk about Kwame Brown and Pau Gasol, was not nearly the magnitude of this trade, because you got to remember, Pau Gasol was a perennial all-star. Kwame Brown was basically just kind of a journeyman. So it was obvious who got the best of that deal. This one is not that obvious. Yeah. It's obvious to me in the short term, and I think it's obvious to me in the long term that both of these trades will end up working out extremely well for both franchises. But when you look at now, and again, I'm going back to being a coach, because as a coach, you want to win now. You can't wait 5 years from now and say, well, this is going to be our franchise player and he's going to have a chance to lead us to a championship. Well, most of the time that means that your ass ain't going to be there as a coach and this is going to be somebody else anyway, right? So right now, the magnitude of this one, I have never seen this in 40 years of me being in the NBA, a trade like this.
Luka, top 5 player in this league.
Absolutely.
AD, top 10 player in this league.
And some was considered probably top 5 as well. You know what I'm saying?
All NBA trades that normally don't happen. Like, this could only be pulled off and kept under wraps between 2 GMs that have great relationships.
Correct.
So Rob Pelinka, the GM for the Lakers, used to be Kobe's agent.
Yep.
Nico Harrison used to work for Nike and has a great relationship with Kobe as well.
Right.
They've known each other for years.
Right. That's why it was kept under wraps. and all the the words that we're getting, the indication is that these two guys were talking, and the only other people that knew anything about this even being talked about was the owners. That's it. So LeBron didn't know nothing about it. Luka didn't know nothing about it. JJ Redick didn't know nothing about it. Jason Kidd didn't know nothing about it.
Well, Mark Cuban still owns a part of the Mavericks, and he didn't know about it.
Right. So that shows how much part he owns. and Mark Cuban's been owning the Dallas Mavericks for years. Obviously, he sold off, a majority of of that share of the team, and he still has a bit of it. But he has such a little bit that they didn't even consult him about it.
Wow. Okay, I have 2 more points here, and we'll get off of this. First, you mentioned earlier you played against Jason Kidd. Mm-hmm. How do you think he's feeling inside?
Kid J, from the start, when it first broke news, he probably was like, "Oh hell, what the hell?"
Yeah,
because again, you have an attachment to your players. As much as the late great Bill Walton, when I first got into coaching, his advice to me was never get attached to the players because players get traded. And it's impossible. If you are a person that's coaching a team, you're going to get attached to certain guys. From all indications about Luka in Dallas, they loved him. He was a great kid, just would do anything he could do to help win basketball game. He was great in the community. So I'm sure J. Kidd was probably shocked, to hear this news. And like I said, you can kind of tell in the press conference, he was still trying to process this whole scenario of these 2 great players being traded for each other. But I think in the long run, when he gets AD there and they're in practice and they start working out and they're starting the games and things of that nature, and he sees the value that AD brings to the table, that he'll be like, "Ooh, man, I got a chance to win a championship, with this guy right here."
I'm going to throw one last scenario at you.
Okay.
You're coaching and you have 5 years guaranteed. Are you coaching this new Laker team? Or would you coach this Dallas team? You come from Jersey, New Orleans, and the Lakers. You have a lot of experience. Now with these 2 new rosters, who would you want to coach for the next 5 years?
Well, since the Lakers fired me, I think I'll take Dallas. I think I want to coach this Dallas team because, again, 5 years guaranteed don't mean shit in the NBA.
Yeah.
I know coaches, that me being one of them, who had 4 years guaranteed, and next year I was fired. You know what I'm saying? So the 5-year guarantee don't mean shit. So I would coach that team in Dallas right now because I got a chance to win a championship right now. Today. With that team today.
Well, you heard it right here. It's Byron Scott's Fast Break. I'm Kid J. That's the coach, Mr. Byron Scott. Thank you for watching Byron Scott's Fast Break. If you like what you saw, here's some more videos. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.